Hi everybody, it's crazy, it's Sunday, and it's time for the FBGE video of the week. Now before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trusted, because you guys rock, to my crazy fam, I love you guys. Now, we're up to episode number 144, and last week I didn't do an episode due to the fact that some things came up. So this week, we're doing a double episode, doing extra time, and we left off on page 9, let's see if I can do this right, page 9, which is licensing. Okay, and I'm going to try to finish it up. As you see, I'm in my Christmas attire for this episode because it might be the last episode I do for the this book series, and probably not until after Christmas. So if this works out, if you see this video, then you'll know that it ended on this video. All right, so let's get started. Licensing. It's true that 11 out of 10 people haven't read a single software EULA end user license agreement in their lives. I have several times. You know that box full of text that you have to agree to before installing a program? To enlighten your mind and relieve your guilty conscience, try not to skip this section. Okay, also, just wanted to flip over to, see if I can do it right, yeah. We didn't have any files. This is the last file we were on was culling, and basically there's no file. So I just want to make sure y'all do that. I'll probably just leave it over here for y'all, so that way you don't have that bright white screen blinding you with my awesomeness here. All right, so let me continue reading here. Let me get my mouse back over. All right, there we go. Okay, so just like a document you composed in Word rightfully belongs to you and not Microsoft, any Blender file you create is entirely yours. You are free to distribute, sell, and publicly show the Blender file as such as you want. The game engine has a catch, though. Blender and Blender Player are licensed under the GNU, General Public License, GPL. In a nutshell, it means that any executable file that has derived from one of those binaries needs to follow the same original license. And from that legal perspective, a game exported as a runtime is considered to be a derivative binary. Okay? In other words, you need to ensure that all the files you don't want to license under the GPL are not bundled with the Blender player. The option for export as runtime can still be used, but your initial file, the one imported or incorporated inside the Blender player, will have to be licensed under GPL. Okay, so what they're saying is whatever your start file is, like for example, this file right here, if we ran this file with the executable or the Blender player and made it an executable, this file right here will. But if it links to another file, then it does not count. Those files don't matter, just this file, because it was coupled with the Blender player file. Okay, it was compiled together as an executable. So since it was done as an executable, then this particular file will be part of the GPL license. Anything connected to it, in other words, if you have it linked, like say for example you have open another file, if you click on one of the mouse heads, then that right there does not count for the GPL. Okay, you can have whatever license you want after that. Okay, a simple way to keep your files separated from the Blender player is to create an initial load file. This file will give a game actuator that only then will load your real main file. This way, all your actual game files can be kept external to the binary. Your file doesn't even need to end in .blend for the game actuator to work. Alright? Why Blender Game Engine won't run... Well, why the Blender Game Engine won't run in iOS. It does now, but back then it did not. There is a downside of the GPL license when publishing in some distribution platforms. For legal and perhaps economic reasons, most distribution game platforms do not accept GPL code in their components. That means it will be hard to get the game engine ported over to consoles and some more restricted mobile and portable mobile devices. Web publishing. Burster? Okay, so www.geta3d.com. Geta3d.com. Buster is a plugin that allows you to publish and play your games in a web browser. The plugin was developed and is supported by a third-party company, independently of the Blender Foundation. The plugin contains a slightly modified version of Blender Player that runs as fast as if it were installed natively. Not all Python modules are supported for security reasons, but external assets, for example textures and videos, work pretty well. Additionally, Burster offers a protection system for your work through online on-the-fly decryption of your Blender files. This does not violate the GPL and can provide the necessary security that some commercial works demand. If you are considering using the web as a publishing platform, you can find updated information in the Burster website. Make sure you test your game extensively. Even though most of the features are supported, more advanced resources can get a bit tricky. For example, video texture is supported, but the only way to play videos is with external URLs in a server that supports streaming. Beyond packing. For web development and mobile, you need to include all the external dependencies into the main file. While textures can be incorporated with the packing option, the files and scripts need to be merged in manually. If you are using Python scripts, follow these advanced instructions. Open all external scripts, example original in //scripts/ in the Blender text editor. Remove all the from dots from the scripts. Fill all the Python module controllers by copying this into the Blender text editor and running it as a script in Blender, not inside the game engine in Blender. Okay. Import BPY from for object in bpy.data.object. Okay, colon for condition. Basically, it's the code right here. That's what you're gonna put in. Okay, and I'll switch over to it so you can see it right here. This little code that will help do that. So you can just have that done. Okay, it's in the book. If you don't have the book, down in the description, it's there. Don't forget the file. All right, so mobile publishing, Android. Okay, so the wiki.blender.org index PHP, you can actually just type this in yourself if you'd like, or just copy it from the book. Okay, you can go to that website and find it. Although it is early to know how far this will go, which it has gone farther, the Android deployment for the game engine is starting to get in shape. An experimental branch of Blender, SOC-2012-Swiss_cheese, makes an Android-compatible Blender player that can open simple .blend game files. Animation, physics, GLSL materials, and mouse interaction are already supported. And there's a lot more supported now. Okay, in Figure 9-3, you can see the final sample file from Chapter 4 running in an Android phone. To see this in action, go to http://youtube.b/bf1m, whatever this is. So we're just going to go ahead and flip it over. That one right there. If you got the book, just click on the file. Alright, so that one was there. You can play it. To run your game, you can download the Blender Player Android app and open the game from it. As of the time of writing, the app is not yet an Android on the Android market. You can download it from the Blender Artists Forum thread, and the link is also in the book. I will flip over there so you can see it. Okay. Alright, so a mobile platform is a limited deployment target. The phones and tablets are getting more powerful every day, yet they still lack in hardware horsepower compared to gaming PCs. As such, you need to be especially careful with optimizing your games. Such general guidelines, some general guidelines, excuse me. Simplify the geometry, chop down big objects into smaller parts, use occlusion culling when possible, work with power of 2 textures, okay? Other tools. The Blender game engine can be used for prototyping. Before the game is fully developed, in another game engine or another common situation, you can use Blender only for asset making for an external engine. And the Blender game engine is for previewing the animation playbacks and basic interactions. In those cases, you will not be using the logic components of the game, but mostly making sure your assets, objects, materials, animations can be transferred easily to other engines. Exchange file format or formats. When your engine does not support Blender files directly, you have to find the best format to export from Blender. There is one sorry. There is one format in Blender intended for games, excuse me. It supports not only mesh and texture, but also animation, shading, and physics. Collada is an open exchange file format maintained by Khronos Consortium, the same group behind the well-known OpenGL, OpenCL, and others. Although the support for it in Blender is not complete yet, it's getting there. Another format broadly used is FBX. This is a proprietary format created and maintained by Autodesk, with proper support in Blender going on and off in the past releases. Even when you are using Blender only to build your assets, the game engine can be of great value. It should be simple to create test levels for your character animations, test ideas, and in some cases even build a whole game prototype before migrating to another engine. In the next chapter, you will learn about some projects that use the game engine in one way or another. One of these projects is Cubic World. Originally created in the game engine for a game contest, the project was well received that the main developer decided to port it to the iPhone, writing a specific engine from scratch. Whether you are building your own engine, porting it to an open or commercial alternative, or developing with the game engine, be aware of the alternative to better support your decisions. This is an ever-changing topic. New technologies come and go, and it's up to you to keep yourself updated on the subject. Sign up for newsletters, visit forums, and go to conferences. And although it may eventually help, we don't mean wandering around on Twitter or Facebook. Gamekit. www.gamekit.org. Gamekit is a basic game engine that allows fast prototyping built around open source software from free for commercial use. Gamekit uses Bullet for physics, Org for rendering, OpenAL for sound, Lua for scripting, and AmiKit for animation, a standalone library created specifically for this engine, but one for use elsewhere. It reads Blender files and supports all of its logic bricks. Okay, that's kind of a neat one to get into if you want to do that. This modular approach makes it quite interesting for indie developers who often need to design their own engine from scratch. You can borrow their support for Blender files and render engine and implement a unique logic system, for example. One of its key benefits over the Blender game engine is that Gamekit fully supports non-PC platforms such as Android and iOS. Gamekit also uses a non-viral license, meaning that games you create can have any license you want. As of the time of this book, when went to press, Gamekit is still in its early stages. Nevertheless, it's generating some hype in the Blender game community. We are following this project closely and recommending you do the same. It's actually gotten higher up, a little bit higher up since then, since 2012. Unity, SI02. When Gamekit stands out for its tight integration with Blender, there are other game engines or other engines with strong support for Blender native files. SI02 is an engine targeted exclusively to the mobile market. It currently supports both Android and iPhone devices. It also supports native Blender files, so there is no need to fiddle with export files. Okay, and Unity has gotten a lot stronger since then. If you don't know, then you might want to take a look at it. If your market does not use only portable devices, then Unity 3D is another commercial engine that works with Blender files. It's as simple as drag and drop them inside the editor. Unity 3D has been broadly used by the indie industry. They support mobiles to desktops, and by the time you read this, they can probably deploy for all the main consoles on the market. You still need to rework your materials once you import them inside the engine, but changes in the original file can be merged into the Unity 3D editor. Okay, Unity has since then become very big and popular by some people, but also fell to fame because they decided to, try to charge their users. And yeah, people who try to charge their users wind up failing. All right, I got 2 more pages to do. I think I may be able to follow this through because it's only been about 16 minutes. I'm going to try to make this a 30-minute video. All right, so Blender development cycle. The development of the game engine is tied to the development of Blender itself. Although improvements in different parts of the software are done separately. The release of new versions of the game engine happens as part of the Blender releases. Once a week, there is an online developers meeting, Blender Sunday meeting. At the meeting, they deliberate on pending issues, current development for coders, and trace plans for the upcoming weeks and months. The meetings happen in the Pound Blender Coders channel in the Freenode IRC network every Sunday at 4 p.m. Amsterdam time. So if you have IRC, you can go to Pound Blender Coders and check it out every Sunday. All right. For topics that require longer discussion and a larger audience, the developers use a mailing list hosted at the Blender Institute servers. Okay, and that's also in the book. You can look at it right there. Okay, to subscribe to this list or visit its archives, go to the page listed right below that. Okay, proposals and roadmaps are present and discussed in both channels. Some long-term projects end up resting in the Blender Wiki, which in turn can be incorporated at the official development documentation page, which is right there. Okay? Alright, so approximately every 2 months, a new release cycle starts. In the first week, the proposals for what features should be in the trunk, official Blender code, are presented, discussed, and, if necessary, voted in or out of the upcoming Blender release. This is especially applicable for big features developed on branches, code not incorporated into the trunk yet. Developers may go for long periods of time coding, testing, and calling for feedback before the code ever gets incorporated into Blender's main source. To follow new developments, to help beta test new features, and to make sure we keep the game engine backward compatible, you can keep track of the branches, which are always announced in the Blender Sunday meeting and in the mailing list. Unfortunately, for the Blender game engine, anybody who has progressed from 2.79 forward, yeah, it's done. So you're going to be using UPBGE. So you want to go to the UPBGE Discord page or go to their website and go to their wiki page to find any additional things for it. Okay, so additionally, if you want to talk to Blender Game Engine coders directly or follow our discussions, the Pound BGE Coders IRC channel, also on Freenode, is a place where development is discussed, which I doubt highly that is still going. Right? So, how to report bugs. All software has bugs. Make no mistake about it, for those unfamiliar with this technical terminology, a bug is a problem in the software. Okay, you should know this one. Think about the last time you swore at a computer. Behind your lost hours of work lies a bug, and the imprudence of the not saving your work. Oh, impertinence. The impertinence of not saving your work. Haven't you learned anything from playing video games? Okay, so not saving your work will cause problems. And if you have a bug, you can't go backwards. So make sure you always save. Come on, guys. We've played video games for many years. We should know this by now, right? Okay. So, Blender has a webpage dedicated solely to report and track bugs for users. Unfortunately, it's for Blender and not Blender Game Engine. Okay, so be noteful of that. You'll want to go to the UPBGE Discord page or to the UPBGE website to report a bug with UPBGE. Okay? Alright, so the guidelines for bug reporting are simple, and simple with most places. Make sure you can reproduce the bug several times. Recreate or isolate the bug in the simplest file you can think of. Report the environment you are working in if it's relevant. OS, hardware, version, so on and so forth. Be patient. Reporting a bug can be a very time-consuming task, and a fix may take a long time with some further tests and interactions with you and other coders. Okay? Same thing you're going to happen whenever you're building your game. You're going to get somebody that's going to holler at you and say, yeah, I reproduced this bug once. Okay, that doesn't meet the threshold. Okay? Recreate or isolate the bug to a simplest file that you can think of. They give you, oh, well, I was playing the game and I got all the way from level 1 all the way up to level 67, and in 67 I was in this building and I did this and I did that, and, fix it. Okay? They're not going to get any information. Make sure you have this as your guidelines, because trust me, it'll help you out. Okay, in reporting the environment you are working in, okay, make sure they report their OS, their hardware, their version, okay, what controller were they using. I was playing a game called Subnautica, and I was playing with a PlayStation 2 controller on my computer, or not PlayStation 2, I'm sorry, PlayStation 3 controller, and for some odd reason, it kept spinning. It made me dizzy. Oh man, I about threw up a couple times. But what the problem was, it was with my controller. It wasn't a bug in their system. And I had them chasing bugs for no apparent reason. And one of the coders, gets on and he goes, have you tried a different controller? And I said, well, the only controller I have is this one. I can, it works fine on keyboard. I just want it, I want to be able to use it in game. And he was like, okay. He goes, well, if you can, get a Xbox controller or a third-party controller or another type of controller except for a PlayStation 3. PlayStation 3 controllers usually have problems when it comes to incorporating them on your computer. Okay, so I begged a friend of mine, and it actually wasn't a friend, it was actually my sister, and she had an extra Xbox One controller. I tried it, and no more spinning. I fixed the problem, right? That's a bug because of the fact that if you don't have that listed in your, possible problems, okay, your FAQ, all right, then people are going to do stuff like that. They're going to have a wrong kind of controller, or they're going to hook up to a TV that doesn't have 4K and they're trying to run it 4K, or their graphics card is too slow to run your game. They didn't check the what do they call that? The prerequisites, okay? And most of all, you need to be patient if you're reporting a bug. Okay, if you're in a game and you're trying to report a bug, and it's been weeks, months before you even heard anything, trust me, they're working on it. I do Fallout London, and got to give kudos to those people because they're on it. They're on it every day. And I had a problem with the settlements, and I put in a bug. And I waited, and I waited, and a couple weeks later, nothing happened. And I got back in the game, and the same problem was persisting, so I put in another bug. And I got back a message, hey, we are working on this. You know, we understand that you're wanting this to be fixed. Unfortunately, it won't be fixed until the next update. And the next update came out, and it was fixed. So be patient. You know, if you've done any kind of code work, look at it, be aware that all that code they got to go through to find out what's going on with that bug. Okay? All right, so keep that in mind. And if you're working with a modder, modders are using the old code and tweaking it to try to make it work for them. Okay? So when you got a person who made a mod and they're religiously up on it, you know, then be aware that it's going to take them time to go through that, through the original code, okay, of the game and their code as well that they swap the game with. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so, and remember, the more time you spend on making a good report with good sample file, concise description, and so on, the more you free a developer to work on fixing the bug itself. Okay, so be detailed, but don't go crazy with the detailed. Just concise descriptions of what's going on, what system you got. Don't tell, I got a 3080 Ti and it's got this and it's got that and I got a 4K, you know, Samsung TV and da. Don't do that, okay? I got a 3080 Ti, okay? That's what I'm running. I'm running Windows 11. You know, I'm running a non-4K TV. Okay, that's it. That's all you got. Be simple, okay? Be simple, but concise in what your descriptions are, okay? Do it yourself. As a that's supposed to be provocative, okay? As a provocative final thought, have you considered literally expanding the game engine yourself? I know somebody who has. Hey, yeah. One of the ones I'm actually working with, Game 3, good old Day has, you know, been trying to fix all the problems Brother Game Engine has. He's always worked around it. Yeah. Try it yourself. If you think you can benefit by making it better, do so. Jump in there. Alright? We haven't been giving enough attention to the fact that the Blender source code is open and available to everyone. That may not be the reason you got into the software, but it's interesting to explore its potential. Blender and Blender Game Engine are partly maintained by the Blender Foundation and partly by online volunteer coders. Most of the coders started as users, implementing specific features required for their projects. In the short term, that leads to solutions that make life easier and a project more complete. In the long term, it helps build the community and dedicates energy to the game engine project. Okay? If nothing else, you can try building Blender and replacing the splash screen. See figure 9.4. It's definitely the first step in looking cool and impressing your boss. Okay, it does have a web page there. I'll click on it real quick so you can see. DF. To be replaced with the splash screen with the Blender 2.6. Say on it and the cover of the book. Waiting for the cover of the book. Okay, so they did this cutesy little. Let me get that off of there. Okay, yeah, that's what they did for their Blender 2.6 version. As you see, that's 2.6. That's 0.73 later. Okay, is what we're on right now. We're on 2.79.7. Okay, actually they're in 4.0 now. But yeah, the game engine is not there. Okay, so you can tinker around and play with it. And with that, that brings us to the end of Chapter 9. And I'm going to go ahead and end the book here. If you would like to go into Chapter 10, and I'm going to... Let me just do that for you. We're going to come on over here. Okay, and I'm going to bring up my folder with it. Sorry. I'm working with a little bit of a gimp hand here. Okay? This is 10, book 10. I'm going to hit plus on it. Okay, 10 basically is just showcases. Okay, case studies, talking about games, Super Blender Galaxy, Lucian the Time Machine, the FPS project, so on and so forth. There's a bunch in there. The Cave, so on and so forth. Want to check it out? Check into it. I'll leave that up to y'all. But for me, that's going to be the end of this book. We have made it to the end, so if you've made it here, give yourself a clap and, pat on the back and say, hey, good job. And, hey, never stop learning, guys. Find more books. Read them. Get into them. Make you videos doing the books. I've learned a lot from making these videos and other videos that I've done, and I'm still working on my project. And, it may stay in Blender. It may not. It may go somewhere else. Who knows? Right now, I am supporting Game 3, so if y'all are on my Discord server, it's not in the bottom. Okay? And Day has been the, guy literally running that entire show. He has built it to fix a lot of the problems with the Blender game engine. And I may do a couple of videos to show some of the showcasing I've done. I don't really have a lot, but I might just put that out there. But since this is the end, we will see you on a new video.